Welcome. I would like to welcome you to another episode of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. And if you would do me a favor, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, so anything will help. But here's where we'll start. So I'm continuing my divisional breakdown before the season starts. We're about 2 weeks away from the season, and today I'm going to tackle the NFC North. Now, the NFC North is comprised of the Bears, the Green Bay Packers, the Minnesota Vikings, and the Detroit Lions. And all of these teams are drastically different. Like, this is probably the one division where every single team is drastically different and at a drastically different point of their, their confidence level of their team are drastically different for all of them. And let's start with the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions have been garbage forever. And that's crazy to me because if you see some of the great names, they had Barry Sanders, they had Megatron, of course, Matthew Stafford. This team has been garbage since I can remember, since I've probably been alive, man, and probably before then. I think they're like on a 50-plus year run of not winning a playoff game. And it sucks to be like. And the thing about the Lions had a very eventful offseason, from trading Matthew Stafford, who pretty much shattered the record book, seeing as though how long he played for them in passing yards, touchdowns, everything that has to do with the quarterback position for the Lions. He pretty much shattered that. And he's been a staple, first round pick out of Georgia. He was with the Lions, of course, when they had Megatron, and hell, even Megatron this offseason finally got elected to the Hall of Fame. But it's been a tough road for the Lions, man. And like I said, so you trade Matthew Stafford for Jared Goff. Now, you make that move for a couple reasons. One, you see where the direction of the organization is going. You see that they're not close to winning a championship anytime soon. So it's like, at some point you want to give your a quarterback that is good enough to at least play deep in the playoff, is good enough to maybe have the talent maybe to be a Super Bowl quarterback. You want to give him an opportunity. And now some organizations don't do this. Don't get me wrong. Not every organization does this. Some organizations wants to hold you hostage. Some organizations don't care about how good you are. They want the most for you. So they might send you to a trash organization. But they saw how much Matthew Stafford, put in, and Matthew Stafford never cheated the Lions. Now, he did deal with injury, and but I keep going. I did an episode a while ago about Matthew Stafford. I was comparing Matthew's, like, the NBA, NFL comps, and I said Matthew Stafford reminded me of Blake Griffin because he dealt with a lot of injuries as well as Blake Griffin. Yes, I understand that Matthew Stafford has not missed many games due to injury. I know that. Matthew Stafford is a warrior. Shouts out to him. I know that he has not been sidelined for a lot of NFL games because of injury. I know that. He's been available. However, in his availability, he's been injured majority of the time. Like, damn near every season, he gets injured. While he plays through injury, he does get injured. I just had to say that for a lot of people that being in my comments talking about, how can you say that Matthew Stafford is injury prone if he's always available? He's always available, but he's always playing hurt. Like, all right, back to the regularly scheduled program. But the Lions organization and Matthew Stafford understood that the Lions are nowhere close to winning a championship, like nowhere close. And Matthew Stafford just wanted an opportunity to win. He's still good. He still has an incredible arm. He's still a strong quarterback. It's like, give me a chance to win. And, of course, they did that with trading him to the Rams for Jared Goff. Now, let's look at this at the Jared Goff perspective. The Lions hope that Jared Goff has been to a Super Bowl. He, along with Sean McVay and the Rams, went to the Super Bowl. Now, they lost in the Super Bowl, but they went to a Super Bowl. And what the what the Lions are banking on is that it wasn't mostly Sean McVay's tutelage. It wasn't mostly the incredible defense that they had and some of the incredible players. It was mostly because of him. And I say that because you don't trade a staple of your organization, that is Matthew Stafford, for a player like Jared Goff if you don't hope that. And they didn't really get much from him outside of Jared Goff. So you hoping that Jared Goff is that quarterback that can take you to the Super Bowl or take you out of obscurity, something that Matthew Stafford couldn't do. And it's not because Matthew Stafford is just trash, or it's not because Matthew Stafford is garbage. It's because the organization is not, the Lions have not been able to do a good job they've been getting in their own way. You have Megatron, who to me is an all-time wide receiver. You have Matthew Stafford, who is a top 10 quarterback in my opinion, or has the potential to be a top 10 quarterback. Maybe his winning and accolades doesn't warrant that, but his skill set does. They've had horrible offensive lines. Outside of Megatron, they haven't really had any wide receiver help. I mean, they had Nate Burleson. They had Golden Tate, like they had people, I guess, but it wasn't consistent. They never really had a running game. Hell, they don't really have a running game now. I mean, you have DeAndre Swift, but this would be his second year, I believe, second or third year. So the Lions just haven't been able to get out of their way. So where do the Lions stand today? The Lions, last year they finished fourth in the division again, and they were 5-11. And a lot of the 5-11 is because they ran into bad teams or Matthew Stafford was just balling out. Again, they're hoping that some of the new pieces they got, like I said, Jamal Williams from the Packers, Greg Raymond's, they're hoping some of the new pieces that they get are going to be breakout. Not to mention they have some really good, they have some pieces as far as they have some really good defensive pieces. I mean, you have Jeff Okura, you have you have Brian you have some decent players. Anthony Pittman. It's just that while they have okay players, they don't have a good team. And I will say this though, they did kind of they did do good in the draft. I will say that. Getting Penei Sewell, who I assumed or I believe was the most NFL ready at the time on the offensive line, especially after trading for Jared Goff. It's that's what you hope for. And like I said, you get Brian Heckard from the Eagles. They have pieces, okay? They have pieces, and Trey Flowers, Quentin Dunbar. So they have okay pieces. It's just their team together is not that good, and they're coming into this season not only with a new quarterback in Jared Goff, with a lot of new pieces, a lot of young pieces. Like I said, Jeff Okura, he's still good. It's just he's dealt with injury in his career, early in his career. Like I said, he's still young, but he has dealt with some injury, and of course, Penei Sewell, he'll be a rookie. So there's a lot of new, and they also have a new head coach in Dan Campbell. Now, Dan Campbell has had some interesting sound bites. The jury's still out on Dan Campbell. The jury is still out on Dan Campbell, and I don't know what to. I know he used to play for. We know we used to play for the Lions, and I think that he's had a head coaching job before, which didn't work out. So I don't know how it's gonna go. And honestly, man, I usually don't do this, but I'm gonna do this for this episode. I'm looking for wins for this team, because there's a lot of their offensive line outside of Penei Sewell is still okay, and we still need to see what happens with Penei Sewell, how he is. But there's not a lot of talent on this roster. They don't really have a good wide receiver. I mean, you give up you have Brashard Perriman, but you give up Kenny Galloway. So that, and Kenny Galloway is a very good wide receiver in this league. So looking at the roster, man, or looking at the roster, knowing that you have a new head coach, knowing that you have Jared Goff, who the jury is still out on. I don't believe Jared Goff is a quality starting quarterback. You know what's funny? Before I do this, I know how they made the decision to trade Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff. Of course, we know about Matthew Stafford going to Cabo, I believe, Sean McVay, and there were other players for the Rams, and of course that happened. But how were they able to say, you know what, all right, we'll do it? I almost guarantee what they did was they watched, I think it was 2018, the game between the Rams and the Chiefs, and they saw Jared Goff and Patrick Mahomes go crazy. Like, that was probably one of the most exciting NFL games in NFL history. I know it was Monday Night Football, I believe. That was one of the most exciting games in NFL history. And they were watching that game and said to themselves, yeah, that's the Jared Goff we're getting. That's the Jared Goff we're getting. Even though that we haven't seen that Jared Goff since that game. Even though Jared Goff has since lost to or gave the Jets their first win last year. Jared Goff was incredibly bad in the Super Bowl. That's the Jared Goff they're getting. The Rams versus the Chiefs. And I regret to inform the Lions that might not be the Jared Goff you're getting. That might be a anomaly game. Now Jared Goff is talented. Don't get me wrong. Jared Goff is talented. He still has an incredible arm. He has a cannon of an arm, but his accuracy needs some improving, and his decision making needs some improving. Even at the point in his career where he is right now. But I'm looking at the regular season, right? They did add a game, so 17 games. They won 5 games last year. It's hard for me to see a win in the foreseeable future for this team. I mean, week 1, you have the 49ers. I don't think that's a win. Week 2, you have the Green Bay Packers lost. Week 3, you have the Baltimore Ravens lost, and you have the Bears lost, and you have the Vikings lost. Their first win might come week 6 against the Cincinnati Bengals, but we need to see how, if Joe Burrow is going to be ready, how he looks coming back from injury. But that, the Cincinnati Bengals have more or better pieces out, as far as the wide receiver core, the running back, the quarterback, than the Lions. So that's going to be a tough one. So we're just going to put that we're going to put that to the side right quick. Rams lost. Eagles, they probably won that game. The Eagles don't know what's going on with the Jalen Hurts situation. We'll talk about them once we get to the NFC East, but the Eagles probably win. So week 9 bye, week 10 Steelers lost, Browns lost, Bears lost, Vikings lost, Denver lost, Arizona Cardinals lost, Falcons possibly, but no, probably lost. Seattle lost, Green Bay lost. So that means I'll give them Cincinnati. So I have them going 2-15. Like, nah, that's the Lions are one of those teams, man, that they're in that can't get right category. The Lions are in there for a while. The Cincinnati Bengals have been in there. Who else likes to live the Jacksonville Jaguars, the New York Jets? It's just can't get right central, man. And I don't see much success for the Detroit Lions, period. Not with Dan Campbell, not with Jared Goff. I mean, Matthew Stafford is a better quarterback than Jared Goff and had better pieces at the time with Kenny Galloway, and couldn't get this team over the hump. In fact, he had Megatron in his career and couldn't get this team. I think they made the playoffs maybe in 2016 or 13, one of them 2 years, and still didn't look like Matthew Stafford, as good as he is, could not get this team over the hump. And I don't believe Jared Goff can do that. So it's gonna be tough, man. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. Let's go over to the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings is in a place that nobody wants to be, and that is middle of the pack. Now, I'll say this though. Some people would like to be in the middle of the pack. You know, the bottom of the tier teams I just talked about, the Lions, the Jags, the Jets, for a long time, Cincinnati. Those teams would love to be in the middle of the pack because they've been at the bottom for a minute. But teams that have playoff hopes, teams that have very talented players, very talented roster cores, they hate being in the middle of the pack. And why is that? Because you're good enough to maybe make the playoffs or fight for a playoff spot, but you're not really good enough to advance deep in the playoffs. But you're not bad enough to have a high draft pick. So it's like you're just in the middle of the pack. You're not bad enough where maybe a draft pick or two in the first round can really change your franchise, but then you're not good enough to even compete for a championship. Nobody thinks the Minnesota Vikings are good enough to win a championship. And that's just how it is. And the worst part about it, and why no team really wants to be in the middle of the pack, is because they know it. And the Minnesota Vikings is a tough team because it's like they have a solid receiving core. I mean, or they have a solid core in general. I mean, you have DB Westbrook, you have Justin Jefferson. You have Adam Thielen. You have Dalvin Cook. Like, they have a solid or Justin Jefferson. I'm sorry. They have a solid core. However, they have Kirk Cousins as their quarterback, who is a serviceable quarterback, who is a good quarterback, but nobody thinks he's good enough to exceed or take this team over the top. I mean, they have some pieces, even on the defense, man. You have Xavier Wood, who they got from, I believe you have Xavier Wood. You have Eric Kendricks. You have pieces, man, but this team as a collective is not good enough to win much of anything. Everson Griffin, and the reason why is because they struggled last year mightily defensively. Even though they have a solid defensive pieces, they still don't really have a good. They can't really stop anybody from running the ball. They can't really stop anybody from passing. Their defense was horrible. Not to mention their offensive line was pretty bad last year as well. Now they did do some they did target the draft and got some people, but yeah, I don't know, man. It's the Minnesota Vikings, man. They're just the middle of the pack team. They're a team that is good. They're like the Memphis Grizzlies. They're like who's somebody in the East? They're like they're a team that is just middle of the pack. Like the Memphis Grizzlies is good. You have John Morant, you have Triple J, you have some pieces, but nobody thinks the Memphis Grizzlies can really make some noise and make a playoff. They are. The Minnesota Vikings is Portland, the Portland Trailblazers. Middle of the road team. They're not bad enough that they can really make some noise in the draft, and they're not good enough to make some noise in the playoffs. That's why they've lost in the first round 4 of the last 5 years. And that 1 year, I think they went to the Western Conference Finals. They got their doors blown off by Golden State. Minnesota Vikings, either they don't make the playoffs, they had that one miracle catch by Stephon Diggs, and then nothing. So again, man, and it's mostly centered around their I'm not gonna say their lack of talent, because they have a talented core, but their talent has a ceiling. And I'm looking at you, Kirk Cousins. I'm looking at the defense. I'm looking at the offensive line. It's like I think we've seen the best of Kirk Cousins. And I think that is the problem with the Minnesota Vikings. I don't think Kirk Cousins has the ability to go up another tier. I don't think that Kirk Cousins is good enough. I think we've seen the best of Kirk Cousins. And the best of Kirk Cousins more than likely is not a quarterback that can win you a Super Bowl. Hell, I think the running stat is he's like maybe 1 or 2 in like 10 or something in prime time games. Like that's not a winning quarterback. And again, this is a tough division. This is a tough division, and they went 7-9 last year, and I can see them going 7-10, maybe 8-9 this year. Because again, they middle of the road team. They're gonna win some games that they shouldn't win. They're gonna lose some games that they shouldn't lose. That's just how it is with them. And until I see something differently, and again, they have some incredible talent. You have one of the top running backs in the league in Dalvin Cook. You have Justin Jefferson, who I think finished second in finished second in offensive rookie of the year last year. You have Adam Thielen, who is a top wide receiver, and you have some pieces on the defense, but all in all, it's not really that good. So that's where I see the Vikings. That's just where I see it. Let's go over to the Bears. You know how a roster is a roster that's never been to the Super Bowl as far as currently constructed. You know how you can tell if a roster is Super Bowl contention, like a Super Bowl type roster, is if you throw a top player or a top tier quarterback or something on the roster and what they look like. And what I mean by that, imagine if Deshaun Watson was on this Bears team. Imagine if Aaron Rodgers was on this Bears team. Imagine if Patrick Mahomes was on this Bears team. Imagine if Josh Allen was on this Bears team. Imagine if Russell Wilson was on this Bears team. We would look at this Bears team as, wow, that is a championship roster. I mean, you have Desmond Trufant. You have Allen Robinson. You have Riley Ridley, who is the brother of Calvin Ridley. You have Justin Peters. You have David Montgomery. You have Khalil Mack. You have Jalen Johnson. You have Hakeem Hicks. You have Jimmy Graham. You have Marquise Goodwin. You have Artie Burns, Deion Bush, Tyreek Cohen. This team, this roster as a whole is a Super Bowl caliber roster, in my opinion. I don't know if they'll be able. No, this is a Super Bowl caliber roster. Imagine you give Deshaun Watson, like I said, these pieces. And I think that's what frustrates Bears fans so much. I think Bears fans understand that this is a Super Bowl caliber roster. The problem is, and the thing that's plagued the Bears for a while, is their quarterback play. And I don't want to hear, but they were pretty successful or pretty good with Jay Cutler. Yeah, what did Jay Cutler get them? Did they get them to the Super Bowl? Nope. In fact, last time they went to the Super Bowl, who was their quarterback? I don't remember who their quarterback was, but that's when they had the two black Lovie Smith and Tony Dungy when they went against the Indianapolis Colts and two black coaches. I remember that. But and here's where we sit, honestly. Right now, there's a quarterback battle between the vet and Andy Dalton and the rookie and Justin Fields. Justin Fields has looked incredible, and I mean incredible, in the preseason. Now he's had some stinkers, but of course you expect that from a rookie. You know what I'm saying? The one thing that I heard I don't remember where I heard it, and I know a player said it, but they said it's very easy to fool rookies because you're not used to it. You're not used to seeing the schemes in the NFL. You're not used to it. So it's easy to fool a rookie, to disguise things for rookies. And Justin Fields has looked really good. Again, he's had some moments that he looked bad. I mean, we know the big hit that he got. I don't remember. I think it was against the Dolphins, I believe, or something. The big hit that he suffered. But all in all, or was it the Bills? I think it was the Bills. But I think it was. I don't know. It was the Bills or something. But all in all, he's looked good. The question is, do you start Justin Fields or do you start Andy Dalton? And I think, honestly, that's a tough question. That's a tough question. Now, we know that this organization is Justin Fields' organization. We know that Justin Fields, for the long run, they expect and they hope that Justin Fields will be their starting quarterback for the long haul. That's the goal. I mean, you get him that high in the draft, you expect him to be that dude, and he has been, for the most part, that dude in the preseason. But if you look at week 1, if you look at their schedule, right? The last thing you want to do is throw. I understand that he said that this game has been easy to pretty much scheme for, right? But I don't want to put my hopefully franchise quarterback in the future at risk, and I want him to. There's three stages in the NFL. There's the preseason, there is the regular season, and then there's the playoffs, and all three stages are drastically different. There were times when Justin Fields was able to get fooled. There was times when he wasn't able to read coverage that well in the preseason. Don't get me wrong. I'm not talking down. He had an incredible, and I mean incredible, preseason. He looked really good. He looked like the franchise quarterback that they're hoping that he's going to be. But again, there's a difference between the regular season, the preseason, and the playoffs. And I wouldn't throw Justin Fields in there, especially week 1 when you have to go against the defense that is the Los Angeles Rams with Sam Darnold, and we know how that is. Now, I understand you think people will say, well, why are you trying to save him for this team? You can't do that, this, and the third. Look, I want him to understand and experience exactly what NFL football is. And while the preseason is really good and is really informative, especially for new quarterbacks, new players, it's different, man. It's the preseason is not the right. You're playing against players that more than likely a lot of them won't even make the roster. You're playing against some players that more than likely won't see game 3 of the preseason. So you're not really getting a true test or a true look at what you're going to be facing. At this point, teams aren't fully, scheming against you. These teams aren't worried about, all right, how are we going to stop Justin Fields? Justin Fields has to do this, and this. Teams are like, all right, we're going to figure out, we got to cut roster. We have to figure out. They're not really focused on you. In the preseason, I think teams are really focused on them as far as, all right, what we're doing is we're trying to figure out who's going to be on this team. They're not really worried about game plan. They're not really worried about, they're worried about who's going to be on this team. Come regular season, they're worried about scheming against you and how they're going to stop you. And I don't know if Justin's ready. I wouldn't throw him in there if I wasn't sure he was ready. And I don't think the Bears think he's ready right now. I'm not saying he's garbage, and I'm not saying he won't be ready. But I don't even think the Bears think he's ready because I think they've still named Andy Dalton the starting quarterback. And they're seeing things in practice that we're not able to see. So I understand, the Bears have fumbled mightily this offseason when it comes to, getting a quarterback. Because remember, They were in talks about getting Deshaun Watson. They were in talks about getting Russell Wilson. That didn't matriculate. They ended up getting Andy Dalton. So I understand that. I understand they might not be the best gauges of quarterback play. However, we as fans see what Justin Fields looked like in the preseason. So the fact that you could see that and still name Andy Dalton means he's not ready. And I wouldn't throw out a quarterback. And just because Andy Dalton starts week 1 or starts the first few weeks of the season doesn't mean that this is Andy Dalton's team. We all know that this will be Justin Fields' team. The way he looks, the way he holds himself, the way that he carries himself. We know that this will be Justin Fields' team. Just because Andy Dalton might start week 1 or might start week 1 through 4 or whatever doesn't mean that it's Andy Dalton's team. It just means that he's pretty much the placeholder at this point until Justin Fields is ready. So I don't think that I don't think the Bears should rush this. And I think that that's the approach they're doing. I don't think the Bears are rushing it. I think that the Bears understand that, okay, we have a gym. We have a very good talent, a talent that can lead us places that we may have not been in a while if we get this right. We already have the defense. You know, we have a tenacious defense. We have a really good core as far as receiving core, running core. We have a good offense. We do not want to mess this up. And I understand. I wouldn't throw in a player. Throwing in a player when they're not ready can really ruin their entire career. We always talk about fit as well, but look at Josh Rosen. They threw him in there and he wasn't ready, and they had to throw him in there because he was a top draft pick and they didn't really have anybody. But look at Josh Rosen. Josh Rosen just got cut from another team. I don't even know where Josh Rosen is, if he's still even in the league. Some players don't bounce back from starting too early or starting before they were ready. And that's the last thing you want to do with Justin Fields. Again, the preseason is different from the regular season. And I think that by the end of the season, we'll see Justin Fields. I don't think it's going to be late in the season, maybe week 6 or week 4, maybe even week 2. I don't know. But I just think that it is the right decision starting Andy Dalton if Justin Fields is not ready, because Justin Fields is a long-term solution. Andy Dalton at this point of his career and at this point right now is just temporary. So, and I mean last year they won what? They went 8-8. I think that they can win 10, 11 games, maybe even 12. It's just, again, you do not want to rush this quarterback situation. They have the roster to win 10, 12, 13 games. It's just you have to get the quarterback position right, especially in the NFL. So that's the Bears, man. And Green Bay was the loudest team this entire offseason. From the actually, it really started last year with Jordan Love pick. I think they picked him at 10th. And of course the Aaron Rodgers situation, and then this offseason the Aaron Rodgers situation, talking about he's probably going to retire. He's not coming back to Green Bay. He doesn't want to come back if Gutekunst is still there. We know about the fourth down play in the AFC or NFC Championship. Like it's been a loud offseason, man. It's been a loud offseason. But as we sit here today, Aaron Rodgers is on the team. He'll probably be on the team for this year, and then he'll probably leave. They still have some really good pieces. I mean, you have Devontae Adams, they're in contract discussions, but it look like they're going to get a deal done soon. You have Aaron Jones, who's a really good running back. Marquez Valdes-Scantling. You had Devin Funchess, but he is out for the season, so I hope that I wish a speedy recovery from him or for him. You have Robert Tonyan, who looked incredible last year, along with Aaron Rodgers. Zaire Smith the Smith brothers, Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith. This is a good team. You know, Darnell Savage, shouts out to Maryland product. This is a good team. And of course, this team is a championship caliber team because of Aaron Rodgers. And I say that even though you have some good pieces, we've seen what this team looks like without Aaron Rodgers, and it's not good. This team's good. And it's really just how good Aaron Rodgers plays and how good this team gels. I mean, they're coming off of back-to-back 13-3 seasons. They're coming off of back-to-back NFC Championship NFC Championship appearances. Now, the year before last, they got their doors blown off by the 49ers. Last year, they lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who ultimately won the Super Bowl. Now, they could have beat the Buccaneers if, of course, again, we know about the fourth down play. Also, there was a lot. The Bucs had like maybe 3 or 4 turnovers that they should have. The Packers should have capitalized on. They didn't, but it is what it is. So the Green Bay Packers is good. It's a team. I think that they're probably one of the top top 2 or 3 in the NFC at this point right now. It really depends on how Aaron Rodgers plays, but again, he's coming off an MVP season, so I don't think there's going to be that much drop off, if any. I think the real story and the real conversation will really come for the Green Bay Packers. One, when turbulence hits or when turmoil hits, how does teams bounce back, especially a team that had the offseason that they had. Also, the real conversation comes next year. They restructured Aaron Rodgers' deal, so more than likely he's gonna be gone next year. And that's when. But Green Bay is a solid team. I mean, they're a really good team because of their quarterback. Because even though they have pieces, you have Devontae Smith, who is probably top 1 or 2 receivers in the NFL. Aaron Jones is a really good, probably top tier back, but this team is going to go as far as Aaron Rodgers takes them. Now, I think the same problem, and this is, I think, something that Aaron Rodgers has talked about, man. The same problem that plagues them is what I think probably is going to plague them this year. Their roster isn't as good as, I don't know, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers roster. Their roster isn't really as good as, and we'll talk about this when we talk about their division, but this roster isn't as good as the Rams roster. This roster is really only as good as Aaron Rodgers takes them. And, of course, again, you have pieces, don't get me wrong, but if the quarterback's not there, it's, they have a good defense. Their defense is good, like I said, but it's really only as good. We're going to see how good. Again, I think that they can duplicate 13-3. I don't know if they'll be 30. Well, of course, that'll be what, 14-3. I don't think that they'll. I think that they'll probably have a small drop off. They'll probably go from like 13-3 to maybe like 12-5, maybe 13-4 or something like that. But I don't really see that much a drop off with Aaron Rodgers playing how he's been playing. Again, the real conversation, the real head, the highlight topics come next year when the season ends. But Green Bay, in my opinion, will be, once we look towards the end of the season, they'll be in the running for Super Bowl contention. They'll be probably near the Super Bowl. Don't be surprised if we see them maybe in the NFC Championship again or in the Super Bowl. Who knows? That's how good this team is, and that's how good Aaron Rodgers is. So that's the Green Bay Packers. So if we're ranking this division, it's very simple. It is the best and the cream of the crop right now is Green Bay, and then it is the Chicago Bears. Of course, they need to figure out with the quarterback situation, but they have their roster, honestly, is probably better than Green Bay's roster. Like the Bears roster is better than Green Bay's roster. I'm just saying. It's just the quarterback situation. They don't have Aaron Rodgers. And then, of course, you have the Minnesota Vikings, the middle of the pack team, the Portland Trail Blazers of the NFL. And then you have way down the bottom, you have the Detroit Lions, who their Super Bowl every year is Thanksgiving game. So that's that. Moving forward, the saying is you don't really lose your position due to injury. That's the saying, but we know that's not true. There has been multiple upon multiple occurrences where a player has lost their job and hasn't gotten it back due to injury. I mean, just out of the top of my head, hell, we're talking about the Patriots right now. That's what happened with Drew Bledsoe and Tom Brady. Drew Bledsoe led them to a Super Bowl. He was a very good quarterback. He gets hurt, and Bill Belichick brings in Tom Brady, and they haven't looked back since. And Drew Bledsoe never started for the Patriots again. Tyrod Taylor. Now that's a whole nother situation, but got injured due to a training staff error. You bring in Justin Herbert, and the rest is Justin Herbert's win Offensive Rookie of the Year. So they say that you're not supposed to lose your starting job due to injury, but we see it all the time. And why am I saying this? So Cam Newton had COVID last year, and it's not foreign to say, but Cam Newton's season pretty much was derailed last year due to COVID. He was on a roll, had career high numbers as far as like accuracy, passing, completion. Like, he was incredible before COVID. We remember the game against Seattle. Like, he was incredible against COVID for the Patriots. Then he gets COVID, misses some time. And of course, as we know, the New England Patriots offense and New England Patriots system as a whole is historically challenging to not only learn but to keep up with. And of course, we know Cam Newton came in late. It was a lot, but we can reasonably say that Cam Newton's his season last year was derailed due to COVID because he never recovered after COVID. And I'm not here. Look. I'm not here telling anybody to take the vaccine. Do what helps you. I think you should take it, but it's free will. You do what you want, whatever makes you happy. I know some people are against. I know there's people, of course, that are against taking the vaccine or skeptical of taking the vaccine. I get it. I'm not here to say, hey, you need to take it. I'm also not here saying you shouldn't take it. I took it. I'm a vet. I've taken the vaccine. It is what it is. And I'm also one of the people that think that, I mean, you're in a contact sport, man. And I talked about this before. It's like, I understand not wanting to do the mandate. Cool. I understand, free will and everything, but you're in a contact sport. You're going up against, like, football is one of the most, actually, it's probably the most contact sport in the world. And you're rubbing bodies against people, or you're people breathing on you, especially on the offensive line. You're getting tackled by people, so you're getting wrapped up. Of course, you have a whole bunch of coaching staff, a whole bunch of people on the roster. It's just a lot of people and a lot of Of course, you're traveling, so it's a lot of instances where you can catch COVID. And the question is, so Cam Newton, he's done everything right except he didn't take the vaccine, clearly. There's different protocols for vaccinated players and unvaccinated players. I think if you're unvaccinated, you can go to an off-site COVID test place or whatever, and then just come right back like nothing. If you have COVID, I think it's different. I mean, if you're not unvaccinated, it's different. You're not able to, or if you do go to an outside facility or whatever, you have to have like a 5-day quarantine because you can possibly spread. And like we've seen with the Baltimore Ravens, like we see with the Indianapolis Colts, the Titans last year. Once one person get it don't spread like wildfire. Again, look at the Ravens, look at the Titans. Cam Newton got an off-site test or whatever, or went off facility to get a test or whatever. So that forces him to be quarantined for, I think, 5 days. With that, it's tough, man. It's tough because he's been really good this preseason. Don't get me wrong. Cam Newton has been really good this preseason, but so has Mac Jones, who is the young quarterback who everyone's pretty much, not everyone, but a lot of people want Mac Jones to start for the Patriots. Cam Newton picked the wrong week to have this hiccup because this is the week that you have joint practices. You had the Patriots having a joint practice with the Giants, and then you have the last preseason game, which is because preseason game usually 4 games. Because they cut one down, the third game is pretty much either the real dress rehearsal as far as everyone's playing that's actually going to like be there, or nobody plays. But it looks like for the Patriots, which is going to be tomorrow, everyone's going to play. So Cam Newton, it's the why this is so big is because one, you're unvaccinated. Hey, that's the decision you make. Cool, but you're the starting, or you're fighting for a starting quarterback's position, and this is the same thing that pretty much derailed your season last time. Again, you were having career high in accuracy numbers, completion numbers. You looked incredible. The Patriots looked like they could be playoff teams. Like how good you were, and it can be an argument can be had that not just Cam Newton's season, but the Patriots season went to hell, or was pretty much dashed once Cam Newton got COVID. And the Patriots understand that. Bill Belichick understands that. So it's like you have a COVID, COVID, and pretty much you couldn't really do anything about getting COVID last year. But the fact that now there are procedures where you can prevent yourself from being, I guess, a super spreader, or there are certain steps that you can take as far as getting the vaccine, and you don't do that, and you're a starting quarterback, so you're not as reliable as somebody that maybe is fully vaccinated. Now, I don't know if Mac Jones is fully vaccinated. I don't know who is fully vaccinated on the team, but we do know that if Cam Newton has to do a 5-day quarantine, that means he's not vaccinated. We know that. So I think that you're on a team that one is hella pro-vaccination. I mean, the Patriots were allowing people to come to their stadium to get COVID checked, to get vaccinated. Like they were sending flying doctors, I think, out to different places to get vaccinated. The Patriots are very pro-vaccination, vaccination. So the fact that you are a starting quarterback and you aren't, that can bode costly. And another thing I don't understand. I understand, and I'm a big Cam fan. I'm a big Cam proponent. But again, COVID derailed your season, and your season, you're pretty much on your last leg. And I'm not saying Cam Newton's not good, but if you look at the landscape, Cam Newton is not really. I think he's too big of a star to be a backup, and there's not really much starting quarterback, there's not really many quarterback places where you can go and just be a starter. I thought that Washington would have been a good place, but you get Ryan Fitzpatrick. I still think that Cam Newton's better than Ryan Fitzpatrick, but we're not here to talk about that. There's not a lot of starting quarterback position openings. And like I said, Cam Newton is pretty much too big and too box office and still too talented to be a backup. So it's like, what do you do? Who's going to really pick you up? So I think that he's pretty much on his last leg, especially when we see how last year ended. So I don't understand why you wouldn't do everything. Again, I understand that it's a polarizing thing, I guess, as far as getting the vaccine or not getting the vaccine. But you're a franchise quarterback, and now this could potentially – I think that Cam Newton's starting spot is on the line, and we will see if he gets the starting spot because, he pretty much missed joint practices this year. His starting spot, and ultimately I think possibly his career could be the rest of his career can be on the line on Sunday against their final preseason game. And I think that's unfortunate, but that's the position that he put himself in right now. So, hey, I wish nothing but the best for him, and I hope that I think he's still talented enough to be the starter, and I think that he's better than Mac Jones right now. But for the system that the Patriots want to run, Mac Jones looks like their guy. We know that it's kind of like the Andy Dalton, Justin Fields thing. We know Cam Newton's not the long-term answer for the Patriots, because we know you draft him, I think, at 15th. You draft Mac Jones at 15th. They want Mac Jones. Mac Jones looks like the prototypical New England Patriots quarterback. And that's, I think, what they're hoping that he's going to be. So I think probably one of Cam Newton's biggest games is on Sunday. And that's just how it is, man. So I hope that he wins the starting quarterback position. But if he doesn't, look at this week as the reason why. Not because Cam Newton's talent is falling off. Not because Cam Newton is garbage. Not because Mac Jones is 10 times better than Cam Newton. No. Look at this week as to why Cam Newton may or may not be a starting quarterback come week 1 of the NFL this season. So, moving forward. Starting talking about quarterbacks, man. We saw some quarterbacks win the quarterback battle. Now, Jameis has been announced yesterday that Jameis Winston will be the starting quarterback for the Saints. That's not really we pretty much knew that. You know, he was leaps and bounds better quarterback than Taysom Hill. He looked incredible during the preseason. So he's looked really good. He's earned the starting quarterback position, and I think with you have a better chance of winning and a better chance of probably getting to the playoffs or trying to advance in the playoffs with Jameis Winston as a starting quarterback than you do with Taysom Hill as your starting quarterback. So that's not really news. The biggest news was Teddy Bridgewater winning the starting quarterback position over Drew Lock. Now, Drew Lock, I think this is his 4th or 5th year in the league, and Drew Lock is a better talent than Teddy Bridgewater. Don't get it confused. Drew Lock is a better talent than Teddy Bridgewater. He's a better athlete. He has a stronger arm. He's more mobile. He's a better overall package than he's a better talent than Teddy Bridgewater. And that to me is why this is so alarming, not only to Drew Lock, but to the Broncos. I don't think the Broncos brought in Teddy Bridgewater to be a starting quarterback. We saw Teddy Bridgewater as a starting. He looked really good with the Saints, but he was only a starting quarterback for 6 or 7 games or something. Panthers didn't look too well. Didn't look that good. That's why he's not on the Panthers anymore. The new head coach that the Broncos have, he is more of an offense. He's more offensively gifted. You know, he's able to scheme offense as well. So the fact that you have an offensive head coach and still go with Teddy Bridgewater, who's more of a game manager outside of a gunslinging quarterback, that is really eye-opening for Drew Lock. That really shows that Drew Lock has not made the impression and he's not improved as they thought he would. And it just goes to another carousel that the Broncos have, another quarterback carousel that the Broncos have gone with. I mean, remember Brock Osweiler now, Drew Lock now, Teddy Bridgewater. Like, they haven't been able to get the quarterback position right. And again, don't think that they did not. And I mean, they did not bring Teddy Bridgewater to this team. If you think that they brought him to this team to start, you are sadly mistaken. And that was not in their cards. And the fact that now he has to start means that just shows how much Drew Lock is behind. And that shows just how much Drew Lock either has not improved or regressed. I think Teddy Bridgewater would be good, but that most definitely changes the way I see the Broncos. I see the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos. It's tough, man. I don't know. Again, shouts out to Teddy Bridgewater. Shouts out to Jameis Winston. Shouts out to both of them, African American quarterbacks starting. Shouts out to y'all. But again, and we could pretty much see it with Jameis Winston, but nobody expected Teddy Bridgewater to start. Hell, the Broncos did not bring him in there to start. That really shows you just how much either Drew Lock has not improved or needs to improve. Because again, I'm almost sure that's not what they were thinking when they brought him in. They thought that he was going to be a really good, solid backup Drew Lock was going to be able to learn from him, and it was going to just peaches and cream. And as we're seeing, that has not been the case. And this really puts again, Teddy Bridgewater is cool, but he's not I don't think that he can lead a team to the playoffs. And they were hoping that would be Drew Lock. And the fact that it's not is telling for Drew Lock. Do I think that Drew Lock's career is over? No, I don't. But the thing is, I thought Drew Lock, this was the perfect place for Drew Lock. They needed a quarterback. You have Jared Jeudy. You have Sutton. Once he's fully healthy, they have pieces, and they have a solid defense. You just don't need to mess it up. And hell, it's okay, good, I guess. So we'll have to see how what happens with that. But as of right now, Teddy Bridgewater is the starting quarterback for the Broncos. So there you go. Moving forward, we'll move off the NFL, and the biggest story that happened last week was, of course, the announcement that the ACC, the Big Ten, and the Pac-12 were going to join an alliance. Now, the alliance is not just going to be for football, but it's going to be mostly all sports. And we saw this coming. We talked about this. We saw this coming pretty much. Once the Big Ten lost Texas, once they lost Oklahoma, and, of course, the ACC, I don't know if they've officially lost it, but I know that Clemson is trying to join the SEC as well. That's in the South. It's in South Carolina. Clemson is trying to join the SEC. Once that happened, these conferences are built pretty much off football. Now, I understand the ACC has really good basketball programs. They have North Carolina. They have Duke. They have Louisville. They have Clemson. They have Georgia Tech. I understand that they have good basketball programs, but don't be fooled. Especially in the South, these programs are huge as far as they make the most money off football. Clemson football is leaps and bounds more profitable than North Carolina basketball because of the region it is, because of how successful they've been. Don't get me wrong, I'm a North Carolina fan, but I'm just saying, I'm sure the ACC makes more money off of Clemson football than North Carolina basketball. I understand that Baylor basketball just won the national championship, but do not be fooled. Baylor makes more money off of football than basketball. Texas had Kevin Durant, they had LaMarcus Aldridge, they had PJ Tucker. Texas football makes leaps and bounds more than Texas basketball. And the problem with the Pac-12 is, I understand the Pac-12 has UCLA, they have USC, they have Washington, they have Stanford, they have Oregon, but those games, it's hard. Those games start on the Eastern Standard Time. Those games start like 10:30. It's hard getting recruits to go not only all the way out there to California, especially when most of the recruits are in Florida or Texas. It's hard to go all the way out to California, and for a team that even at their best, even Oregon's probably the best Pac-12 team right now, and they do not have a shot, in my opinion. And I'm an Oregon fan as well. They don't really have a shot at winning a national championship, period. So it's hard to get a player to go all the way. Not to mention the type of offenses that they run, the type of defenses they run. It's not the same as a SEC or ACC or Big Ten or Big 12. So and now I know we heard. I think the announcement also came out that the Pac-12 really has no. They're not trying to expand, because I was saying that they might add some teams, seeing as though, happened with the Big Ten. So I don't know, man. I don't know. This is huge, because, like I said, Maryland, Iowa, they're not keeping the Big Ten afloat. Northwestern, they're not keeping the Big Ten afloat without Texas and Oklahoma. ACC, the Louisville, Georgia Tech, North Carolina, Duke, They're not keeping the ACC afloat without Clemson. And the Pac-12 is pretty much teetering on. They just been dog paddling. You know what I mean? So we knew this was going to happen. Again, once you lose your top, it's not okay. So I'll say this: it's not like it is. It's not like It's not like It's not like the SEC losing Mississippi State or Texas A&M. Those are big schools, but they're not the biggest school. You know, they're not the biggest schools in the SEC. It's not like the ACC losing. I don't know. North Carolina State and Texas and Georgia Tech. It's not like that. Like they're big schools, but it's not their biggest school. They're losing their biggest schools. Now I understand that the Pac-10 still has Michigan, they still have Ohio State, but when you lose freaking again, we need to see, and I'm sorry, I meant that when we need to see what the Big 12 is going to do, but the Big 12 is pretty much teetering at this time. Again, like I said, Baylor, you can lose a Baylor, you can lose Kansas State, you can lose Iowa State, cool. Hell, it'll be a big blow, but you can even lose Kansas when we talk about basketball, cool. You can lose to West Virginia, cool. You can lose at Texas Tech, cool. Even though Texas Tech had Patrick Mahomes, you can lose that. You can't lose your two. It'd be different if one. You can't lose your two. If Alabama left SEC, that'll be huge, like monumental. But you still have Auburn. You still have Georgia. They can still, while they're clearly not leaps and bounds, they're not close to Alabama. They can still keep afloat. Again, you can lose a Georgia Tech. You can lose Louisville. You can't lose your big gun. Again, the Big 12, bro. We're gonna. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I do know, and I'm actually really surprised that the Big 12 is not in the alliance. I understand the ACC, the Big 10. In the Pac-12, and I'm surprised at the Big 12 because I don't know what the Big 12 is going to do I don't know. But, hey, that's what's happening. So, again, we'll need to see what happens with the Big 12. And now I'm, like, listening to hear myself back. No, I'm not saying that Oklahoma and Texas were in the Big 10. No, I'm saying that they're in the Big 12, and why I'm surprised that the Big 12 is not in the alliance. And that's kind of like the Big 10 losing. If the Big 10 lost Michigan and Ohio State, it's over. So, and that's pretty much what we're seeing happen with the Big 12. So, that's that. I'm excited to see. This is a new age. This is going to be a new dawn, and don't be surprised if we're here in the next coming years about the super conference. That's what, probably the two super conferences. Of course, we're seeing what the SEC is doing, and so don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. I said it once we heard that Texas and Oklahoma placed their bid to leave. Don't be surprised if we see it. And lastly, before we go. Man, this happened last Saturday, bro. So Manny Pacquiao lost to Yordenis Ugas. I don't know why I say his name like that. Yordenis Ugas. Manny Pacquiao got destroyed, bro. He was doing good till probably like the third round, and then it was just a steep decline. And it's crazy, man, because he was supposed to fight Errol Spence. Errol Spence was supposed to, but I think he had something with his eye, and he had to back out. And Errol Spence is better than Mr. Ugas. So the fact that he was about to fight someone better than him, he was about to get destroyed. And he got destroyed. And it's unfortunate, man. It's unfortunate. Now, the question is, should Manny Pacquiao retire? When we see greats, and don't get me wrong, Manny Pacquiao is an all-time great when we talk about boxing. When we talk about greats and we see greats, we always want them to go out on the top. And it's not just boxing, but in general. Like Peyton Manning pretty much going out with the Super Bowl. Ray Lewis going out with the Super Bowl. We want to see Tyson. We wanted to see Tyson go out on a win. We wanted to see Muhammad Ali go out on a win. Floyd Mayweather went out on a win. Like, we want to see our greats in any sport go out on a high note. Hell, Kobe, rest in peace to Kobe, went out 60-point game. And it's like, what we don't want to see is what I'm starting to feel like we're seeing with Manny Pacquiao. As far as, now I understand that, he did lose, but he's talking about he doesn't know. He lost bad. Like, it wasn't even close. And I don't want him to I don't want him to end up like Roy Jones Jr. Roy Jones Jr. is probably one of boxing's all-time greatest boxers. But at the end, he just couldn't give it up. And he kept losing, like, badly. Like, he was losing bad at the end. And I feel like that the way that he ended kind of tarnished his legacy. Manny Pacquiao is, again, one of the most decorated, one of the greatest fighters we've ever seen. But I don't want his legacy to get tarnished by and what I saw against your Dennis Ugas, I do not think he has much in it. Again, he was good for 3 rounds, and then it was a steep decline. And I think that I of course, do what you love. If he wants to continue to do it, go right ahead. But I don't see much wins for him if he keeps doing it, and I don't want that to tarnish what we know Manny Pacquiao to be. So again, I hope that he retires, and I hope that he, because that was bad, man. That was bad. It looked bad, and the part that surprised and shocks me the most is he was supposed to fight somebody better than who he lost to. So, and for your Dennis Ugas, I think his next fight might either be Errol Spence or Terrence Crawford. I think he's gonna lose either one of those. So I would probably want to see Crawford. Well, no, I kind of want to see Spence, seeing as though he was supposed to fight Manny Pacquiao. I kind of want to see him get back in the ring and do that. But for Manny, man, I hope this is the end. And I don't mean that in like a bad way. Like, I hope that he, I hope from what I saw. And, of course, the post-fight, he was pretty much saying he doesn't know. He's going to think about it. But, yeah, man, I hope it's over. I hope it's over. And I mean that in the most respectful way. So. And there you have it, man. That has been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I appreciate you guys. If you want an Unpopular Podcast shirt, hoodie, sweater, long sleeve, joggers, the link is in the description below. I have multiple different designs, multiple different colors, whatever you want. I got. Hey, man, go get you some merch. Go get you some merch. Also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, so anything will help. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and until next time, much love.